Welcome back to the Growing Grace podcast. On today's episode, I am talking all about faith like a mustard seed. And I really wanted to talk about this today because I saw something a while ago that really piqued my interest and made me want to do a deeper dive into what it truly means to have faith like a mustard seed. And I was reminded of it again last night when somebody at my church was teaching and said that the more faith we have, the bigger the funnel is for blessing. And so many of us it can be really easy for us to get caught up in the faith like a mustard seed because there's things that come about in our lives that are really difficult, and we struggle to have any more faith than just the tiny little bit like a mustard seed, like the size of a mustard seed. But if we're content with just that amount of faith, no matter how difficult the situation we are facing may be, we really don't have faith at all. If we're content with just giving God the size of a mustard seed for our faith and saying, God, I know you can work with it, so that's all I'm willing to give, that's really not true faith. And so I'm going to read Matthew chapter 17, verses 14 through 20. And this is when Jesus is talking to the disciples. And Jesus goes to heal a demon-possessed boy, and the disciples are so curious as to why Jesus could cast out the demon, but they couldn't. So starting in verse 14, it says, At the foot of the mountain, a large crowd was waiting for them. A man came and knelt down before Jesus and said, Lord, have mercy on my son. He has seizures and suffers terribly. He often falls into the fire or into the water, so I brought him to your disciples, but they couldn't heal him. Jesus said, You faithless and corrupt people, how long must I be with you? How long must I put up with you? Bring the boy here to me. Then Jesus rebuked the demon in the boy, and it left him. From that moment, the boy was well. Afterward, the disciples asked Jesus privately, Why couldn't we cast out that demon? You don't have enough faith, Jesus told them. I tell you the truth, if you had faith even as small as a mustard seed, you could say to this mountain, Move from here to there, and it would move. Nothing would be impossible. And in the New King James Version, it says something along the lines of, I tell you the truth, if you had faith even as a mustard seed, you could say to this mountain, Move from here to there, and it would move. Nothing would be impossible. And so often we get caught up on the faith as small as a mustard seed. But even though mustard seeds are so incredibly small, once they are planted, they are extremely invasive and they can grow in even the worst conditions. Once mustard seeds have a root in the ground, it spreads fast. It can grow so fast that it can get rid of and destroy any other plant that's living around it, and it's uncontrollable and impossible to get rid of. And so this is the true faith that Jesus was talking about. He wants us to have faith like a mustard seed in the way of our faith grows fast. That once it has root in us, it can grow fast, it's uncontrollable, it can't be stopped, and it can kill any other plant that lives within us. Any plant of doubt, fear, unbelief, worry, whatever it may be. Our faith should be able to take over everything else, just like a mustard seed takes over everything. Jesus didn't want the disciples or us to be content with allowing ourselves to have a small, tiny, or little faith, like so often the mustard seed is used to describe. He's telling us to have the uncontrollable and unstoppable faith that no matter what conditions we're under, no matter what we're going through, no matter what the circumstance may be, we have faith that takes over and puts out any doubt, fear, worry, disbelief, whatever it may be. That our faith just completely takes over any other negative emotion we could be feeling or anything else. That these disciples had faith. We all know the disciples were full of faith. That's why they were disciples. They were following Jesus. But when we lack faith, that's what holds us back. That when we allow that disbelief or that unbelief, that worry, that fear of being let down to take over, and we say, well, I have the tiniest little bit of faith that God will do this, but I'm going to focus more on my unbelief or my worry. That's when we don't have true faith. That's when we're fooling ourselves and taking this verse the wrong way and saying, because I have faith that is so impossible to see, that you couldn't even see it between my fingers right now. But because I have that faith, Jesus says that he'll do it. Which Jesus loves to bless us, and he loves to do things for us. But if we choose to focus on panic, fear, worry, doubt, more than our own faith, Jesus can't help us. He can't bless us then. Because then it would be like if a parent was with a child and their child was absolutely wreaking havoc and they were just being absolutely terrible. They were focusing on all the wrong things. They weren't focusing on school, but they were focusing on TV, or they weren't focusing on homework, but they were focusing on TV or an iPad or a game or whatever it may be. And the parent rewarded them anyway because they're like, well, I know that they want to get their homework done. I'll give them a reward because I know that that seed is within them. That would be the same thing if Jesus allowed us to focus on doubt, fear, and worry and panic more than a faith. That we are called to have faith like a mustard seed because it is wild and uncontrollable. It looks crazy to the world, but there is no normal way for us to speak to a mountain and say, I want you to move from here to over there, and for it to be normal. The only way for us to say, I want you to move from where you are to over there to get out of my way. The only way for that to happen is going to look crazy to the world. But that is the faith we are called to have, the radical, uncontrollable, undeniable faith that is just like a mustard seed, not in the way of its size, but in the way of it taking over, and in the way of it taking over our bodies, our minds, our hearts. And it taking over so much that after it takes over us, it doesn't stop there, but it spreads onto others. And that when they see our faith, their faith is increased because of it. And so this is going to be a much shorter episode this week, but I just think it's something very important to do a little bit of individual reflection on, that it's just so important that we look inward to ourselves and we truly evaluate where our faith is at. Are we content with just giving God the size of a mustard seed in our faith? Or do we want to say the true meaning of what a mustard seed is and allow it to take over completely? So that's going to be my challenge for you all this week, is to look inward, reflect inward, and allow that mustard seed of faith to completely take over you. To allow it to take out the worry, panic, and fear, because your life is going to be so much better if you allow your radical faith to shine through. So thank you all so much for watching this episode, and I will see you all next week. Bye!